Dopamine Nation by Anna Lembke. What do you guys think of when you think of Dopamine Nation? I think of, well, a nation that's obsessed with dopamine. I wonder if this is about how things have gotten as bad as they've gotten, or if the author expands on it and says this worked in other nations throughout history. Maybe we can do this. I think of sugar and junk food and caffeine and TV and ADHD medications. And you get my point, but we'll see, right? In this review, I talk about this book. I talk about the chapters, my thoughts on it, things I learned, things I liked, things I maybe I wasn't so crazy about, some standout quotes, who I recommend this book to, and what books to maybe check out next. Just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description, and if you buy anything through those links, like maybe this book, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and I want to make self-growth normal, because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If you agree, then please make sure to smash that like button. The author said that this book is about the relationship between pleasure and pain, and how it is essential for a life well lived. We turned this world, right? We turned this world from a place of scarcity to a place of overwhelming abundance with drugs, food, news, gambling, shopping, gaming, texting, Facebooking, Instagramming, YouTubing, tweeting, TikToking, Snapchatting, and the increasing potency and numbers of high reward in stimuli today is quite staggering, leading to a rather wired generation. Generation Z and the upcoming Generation Alpha. Interestingly enough, though, the brain processes pleasure and pain in the same place. So the author wants to unpack the neuroscience of reward. I think Cece wants a little bit of camera time. Come on, Zeus. Hi. But she wants to do that to get us, help us find a better balance between pleasure and pain. Chapter 1 is Our Masturbation Machines. The beginning of this chapter reminded me of Bittersweet by Susan Cain, where the author was discussing melancholy, sadness, and longing regarding her patients. Not regarding her patients, but just through the eyes of her patients. Oh, Seuss, come on, don't worry. Here, I'll open this for you so you can... I know you like to scratch at the... She has 3 legs. Her name's Cece. You little doodle, you little... It's a slightly unusual story. Not in the field, I'm sure, but definitely in books I've checked out, like this one. But she talks about a patient she had who was addicted to sex. Obviously, anonymously. I got the feeling that a lot of the book from this would revolve around her patients. This chapter with the different stories about them, like with Justin and Jacob, it was a little... graphic. It kind of reminded me of Big Mouth, but it's real and it's serious. Interesting fact, and this book came out in August 2021, 70% of the global world deaths are attributable to modifiable risk factors like smoking, physical inactivity, and diet. Chapter 2 is Running from Pain. Like, by 1 or 2 chapters in, I'd heard way more about her experience with her patients than I was expecting. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's a little bit of both. Do you know that there are people who like losing at gambling just as much as they like winning? There are people who are just as encouraged by a lack of likes on social media posts as they are by likes on social media posts. Because both getting likes and the lack of getting likes makes them think that they want more. You also learn about, I've heard about this as an experiment, the Pavlov dogs. I've heard about that in every single psychology book I can name. And similar studies. Chapter 3 is the pleasure-pain balance. As she said, our brains aren't evolved for this world of plenty. We are cacti in the rainforest and we are drowning in dopamine. So we need more reward to feel pleasure and less injury to feel pain. How do we survive and thrive in this new ecosystem? How do we raise our children? And what ways of thinking and acting are required of us? Chapter 4, Dopamine Fasting. In this chapter you learn, and this is a really unique framework I've heard, about how to figure out whether your issue is indulgence or something else. This kind of reminds me of how like a doctor would talk to their patient and ask them all sorts of questions to find out what exactly is wrong with them by ruling this and that and this and that out. Now this whole thing with her patients, at first I was like, well, I was hoping there would be more studies and not as many stories. But one, I gotta say, I got used to this after a few chapters, and she also loves going over studies. You'll get studies and experiments and statistics on occasion, so it's not 100% based on her experience, but 2, her experience alone is still pretty significant. Although maybe not as credible as being accompanied by, well, what she accompanied it with. This author is a psychiatrist who went to Yale and Stanford and has been board certified since 2003, literally 20 years ago. So you can imagine how many people she's seen and how much she's learned from them and how much data has gone on over in her head over the years that she was able to assimilate and put in a book. As they say, when you check out a book, you are compressing decades into days. Chapter 5 is Space, Time, and Meaning. A lot of this book centers around social media attention and addiction to certain drugs like alcohol or marijuana. Alcohol is a drug, guys. Let's just cut the crap here saying drugs or alcohol. It's a drug. It's a mind-altering substance. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that in a video, but I feel very strongly about this very random matter. External rules and sanctions like taxes on cigarettes, age restrictions on alcohol, and laws prohibiting cocaine possession, although necessary, will never be sufficient in a world where access to an ever-growing variety of high dopamine goods is practically infinite. She also goes over ways to self-bind, restrict yourself from doing what you do that you want to do, but if you could, you'd quit and fast. This is like, it's really specific stuff. It's like spatial strategies, like space, and chronological strategies, time, and categorical strategies. Meaning, which is something you don't hear too much about in all sorts of books like this. By the way, going over these statistics, you learn about everything from drops in work hours in the US to increases in gluten-free versions of mainstream snacks and diets. It's fascinating. It really is. This lady, like, I gotta say, I like what she's doing here. Chapter 6 is A Broken Balance, question mark? Damn, the story behind this Chris guy was unfortunate. You wonder, listening to stuff like this, is what it is exactly that causes a person to say, yeah, sure, I'll try that, and he ends up relying on morphine indefinitely. I also have to say, talking about our patients, it took up less of the book the further I got into it, and I heard more about drug use, which is a little interesting. Chapter 7 is pressing on the pain side. I'm surprised this book wasn't something where it's like, you know, here's how this applies to drugs. Here's how it applies to porn. Here's how it applies to sex, and you have a chapter for each one. Here's how it applies to junk food. Here's how it applies to video games, and, well, you get my point. But it was refreshing to a degree not to have this be the case on this book. That's something that I think that type of format I feel like we're really used to on this channel. Chapter 8 is Radical Honesty. Dopamine Nation is about much more than just dopamine and what it does to the brain. It just is. In fact, it's so much about related things that in a sense it's barely even about that. You learn about weaning yourself off, being honest with yourself and open with others about what your issues are, how to catch yourself in the act, or better yet, prevent yourself from it, and much more. Lemke did a splendid job on. Chapter 9 is Pro-Social Shame. Damn, this book was good. I was kind of worried about it at first. I also felt going into it pretty quickly that this lady would know what she's talking about. She would. And of course, I was right. I'm wrong about a lot of things on this channel, but I was right about this. At first, I wasn't sure what to think, and I thought it was just going to be one patient after another, and that's more than fine, especially if you market the book in a certain way that says, you know, this is what you're going to get from the book. And even the author with her experience would still make that relevant enough on top of her storytelling abilities that I would still see it as viably enjoyable. This was not overall what I was expecting, but I'm very happy to say that. One could say I have a little bit of dopamine going on. Quotes. Every patient is an unopened package, an unread novel, and an unexplored land. The fact that we must resort to removing and reshaping internal organs to accommodate our food supply marks a turning point in the history of human consumption. Telling the truth is contagious. We can leverage shame without shaming. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone specifically who has issues with impulse and just doing something over and over that they don't want to do. And like I said, like, you know, if it were really easy, they would quit fast. It reminds me of one of those signs you see on the highway. Shackled by lust, 1-800-TRUTH. Oh my gosh. Is that just in Pennsylvania? Or like, well, if it is in Pennsylvania, it's in the middle of Pennsylvania. Direction 2. If you like this book, a few others come to mind. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. One of my favorite books ever about how habits work, with some fantastically told stories on the topic. This dude's storytelling abilities are unmatched. Indistractable by Nir Eyal is also really good. Dopamine Nation by Anna Lembke. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and any other books I mentioned in this video, if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.